a small knife, a massive, unmovable block of wood, and a crowd of thousands just watching in dead silence. Right in the middle of it all is a boy the entire village knows by just one name, Lazy Ryan. So could this tiny little blade actually win him the royal gold, the same gold that the kingdom's strongest warriors were literally fighting for? Or was his strange logic about to lead to his greatest public humiliation? Well, that's exactly what this story is all about. You see, this isn't just a story about some competition. It's really an investigation into a psychological battle, a moment where a cold, calculating mind went head-to-head with raw physical power. And it makes you ask a really fascinating question. Is laziness always a curse? Or could it, maybe, just be the spark that lights the fire of invention? So our story kicks off in Ryan's village, right on the edge of town, where his reputation for being lazy was, let's just say, legendary. Everybody knew about it. But what all the villagers saw as just a lack of effort was actually something else entirely. I mean, this slide just says it all, doesn't it? It perfectly illustrates the two ways of looking at the exact same problem. On one hand, you have the villagers' way, brute force, spending hours running around, shouting, throwing things. And on the other hand, you have Ryan's engineered solution. This whole system of poles and ropes that did the exact same job with a simple pull of a string, all while he got to relax in the shade. And this is what we can call hidden efficiency. To everyone else, he just looked lazy, but in his mind, he was an inventor, always looking for the path of least resistance. His father, though, he watched all this with a really heavy heart. He was worried, you know? Worried about what would happen if a real crisis ever hit, one that couldn't be solved with just a clever shortcut. And, well, that crisis, it arrived a lot sooner than anyone expected. It pushed Ryan's methods right to their breaking point. This was a challenge that his clever little systems just couldn't solve on their own. An absolutely brutal dry season hit the village, and it hit them hard. And to make things so much worse, Ryan's father fell gravely ill. Suddenly, the entire weight of the farm was on Ryan's shoulders, and he was completely 100% unaccustomed to that kind of grueling traditional farm labor. He tried, he really did, but his systems just weren't enough this time. He had to stand there and watch helplessly as the crops just withered away under the sun. And that night, sitting all alone, he felt the true weight of his own uselessness. He realized that his lack of grit, his refusal to do what everyone called hard work, had cost his family everything. And then a royal soldier shows up in the village with a huge announcement. The king was holding a competition. And the prize? A chest literally filled with gold. Ryan saw it as his one and only chance to redeem himself and save his family. So when he declared he was going to enter, the villagers just laughed at him. But you know what? Ryan didn't care. For the first time, he was fueled by a motivation he had never, ever felt before. Okay, so 3 days later, the competition begins. Ryan finds himself surrounded by the strongest, fittest warriors in the entire kingdom. And the first trial? Well, it was designed specifically to favor pure physical power. The role was simple. Across a vast lake, the first 3 people to reach the other side would move on to the final round. As soon as that signal fired, all the other contestants just dove straight into the water, fighting the currents with every single ounce of muscle they had. But Ryan, he stayed right there on the shore, just thinking. He understood something that the others didn't. He saw it for what it was. This was a race to cross the lake, not a swimming race. He totally reframed the problem. He realized the goal wasn't to be the best swimmer, but simply to get to the other side first. So, while everyone else was completely exhausting themselves in the water, Brian ran into the forest. He gathered a bunch of branches, built a small raft, and used another piece of wood as a paddle. And then, slowly but surely, he just glided across the water, passing these gasping, tired swimmers one by one. He finished third. He proved that a sharp mind could absolutely beat strong muscles. Alright, so now we're at the final trial. This was a test of pure raw power. This is where Ryan's intellect was about to face its ultimate test. So, in front of each of the 3 finalists was this massive square wooden block. The task sounded simple, but it was brutal to actually do. Move this dead weight 1 full kilometer. The arena was filled with all kinds of tools, heavy ropes, iron bars, levers, and the other 2 warriors, they immediately grabbed the tools of brute force and just started straining against their blocks. Ryan just stood back. He knew. He absolutely knew he couldn't win by playing their game. He had to find a different way. He had to think smarter. So he walks right past all the heavy ropes and the levers, and to the absolute confusion of the entire crowd, he picks up a small knife. The king himself leaned forward, totally baffled. How in the world could a pocket-sized blade possibly move a mountain of wood? But Ryan didn't even try to push the block, he just sat down and began to carve. See, his lazy solution wasn't effortless. It actually required immense focus and precision. For 1 solid hour, he worked like a craftsman, not a laborer, carefully peeling away all the corners of the wood. And right here, this is the crucial difference. Where the other warriors saw an obstacle they had to fight, Ryan saw a shape that needed to be transformed. He wasn't trying to overcome friction, he was trying to eliminate it completely. He carved that heavy, square block into a perfect round ball. And with a single, easy push, it began to roll. It was no longer a struggle of muscle. It was just the beauty of physics in action. He crossed the finish line first, turning all that mockery from the crowd into a thunderous standing ovation. The king handed him the gold, of course, but Ryan had won something so much more valuable. A profound understanding of his own nature. He discovered what we'll call true motivation. He learned that his laziness was never actually a flaw. It was a gift for finding efficient solutions, a gift that just stayed dormant until it was awakened by a powerful, meaningful reason to act. The need to save his family. So what's the real lesson here? Well, that our greatest perceived weaknesses can actually become our ultimate advantage. That hard work is pretty much meaningless without smart thought guiding it. But maybe the most important lesson of all is that a powerful goal, a real why, can unlock a potential in us we never even knew we had. Ryan's story shows us that true ingenuity often comes from a desire for efficiency, and that the world really belongs not to those who move the most, but to those who think the best. Which leaves us all with one final thought to consider. We all face these massive, immovable blocks in our own lives, challenges that just seem impossible to overcome with brute force. So the question is, what is the block in your life that you've been trying to push when maybe, just maybe, all it really needs is a different shape?